To start with, we've applied the nail form along with one coat of the Lula Beauty Bonder. Now we're going in with the Lula Beauty Hard Gel. We're going to use the pink in this example. Starting with your slip layer, which is one even coat on the whole nail, apply that. Do not cure it. Then you're going to go back in and start to create the shape you like. For this example, I am doing a soft almond shape, and I've gone back and picked up a little bit more of that gel so I can gently start to float in my shape. Now, I'm going to make this a bit longer than I want it to be so I have something to file. Now, I used the word float before, and as I'm going, you'll see I'm using a very light pressure on this gel. I'm staying on top of the product. I'm floating on top of it. I'm not using a ton of pressure. Now that I have my extension the way I want it, I'm going to cure that in my lamp for 1 minute. Once my base layer is cured, I like to take the form off. It gives me a better vantage point when I'm applying the rest of my builder gel. So you gently detach it and pull down and away. This is the safest way to remove that form without damaging your extension, as it is quite thin at this point. Now it's time for structure. The bulk of the product is going to be in the center spine or apex of the nail right here. Again, we're going to start with that slip layer. The reason we do this is because it allows the gel to melt into itself. So I haven't cured that slip layer, and now I'm going back in with that bead of gel that I'm dropping right where I want it the heaviest. And you'll see it gently melt into that base layer or slip layer. I'm using that floating pressure again, and I'm just bringing that gel up into the spine and towards the free edge of that nail. Before curing this layer, you can invert the nail. This allows gravity to help form that apex nicely. Once you flip it back over, you can see how it's domed up right there. That's exactly what you want. We're going to cure this now for 1 minute. Now I'm going back in with a very thin slip layer before I add the rest of my builder gel to finish off the structure of this nail. I've picked up another bead and again concentrating on the spine or the apex and just gently floating that product down along the sides. Remember, this nail is longer than it needs to be, so as you're putting the gel along that extension area, try and visualize where you're going to file off some of that gel so you don't need a ton of bulk at the end of the nail. You just want to make sure that where the form meets the free edge of the nail, that's structured correctly. So make sure you look along the sides. Once you're happy with your builder gel placement, you're going to cure that for 1 minute. Now that's been fully cured, we're going in with our cleanser and we're going to make sure and remove all of that sticky residue that's left over. To shape this nail, we start along the side walls. We want to look at where that gel connected to the natural nail. That's usually where you're going to want to smooth that out. I like to pull the skin away so I don't cut myself with the nail file or file too much on my skin. Next, I'm going to bring that board file flush under the nail and I'm going to shape my free edge. I like doing this technique when I'm doing a soft almond. I like the result much better. You get less of that hook shape. Now I'm going to just touch up that free edge from my vantage point so I like the way it looks. And when you do that, sometimes you have to come back along that sidewall area and just gently blend them together so that from all angles it looks nice and cohesive in its shape. You don't want a downward hook on an almond shaped nail. Now I'm going to go through the top and just smooth that out with a nice flat technique on my board file. I'm removing any bulk, especially along that sidewall area or any unevenness in the top so that when it's time to top coat or apply a color, it's nice and smooth. Here's a little hand filing pro tip for you. Use your board file and hold it kind of like a pencil. This works good with the rounded edge to help detail and make that cuticle area nice and flush. To finish off that shaping, I go in with my foam buffer. I love using the buffer because it's very easy to get that refinement you want in your shaping without doing any damage to the surrounding skin and area. And you can be a little more assertive with your buffer and not destroy any kind of shaping you've done. And there we have it, a beautifully structured nail using the Lula Beauty Hard Gel. As you can see, this nail doesn't have to be terribly thick to be strong. And here it is top coated with the beautiful Lula Beauty top coat. Try the entire Lula Beauty Hard Gel system for yourself now.